Today we're in the high desert of New Mexico, and I'm told there's some great looking gardens in the middle of all this sagebrush. So stay with us. We'll show you some amazing gardens and some surprising places as we garden smart in Taos.
Rainbird has a deep-rooted understanding of the role water plays in our lives. Rainbird takes the challenges very seriously of using water effectively, efficiently, and responsibly. The intelligent use of water guides everything we do.
Proven Winners presents Invincible Spirit, a hydrangea bred to bloom pink every year. Pink symbolizes the fight against breast cancer, and Proven Winners through Invincible Spirit is proud to help in this cause. More information available online.
Garden Socks utilizes your own growing media, mix, or compost. They're designed to allow you to garden anywhere and clean and direct stormwater runoff. Garden Socks, a container for your plants.
Hey there, little red riding hood. You sure are looking good.
Welcome to GardenSMART. I'm Joe Lample. Part of the fun of visiting any new city is seeing the gardens, and it's even better when you get to meet the people that take care of them. As you'll see today, we'll take you on a tour of some very special gardens tucked away in some pretty unsuspecting places. The diversity of the people, the environment, and the plants that grow here are something you don't want to miss, so sit back and enjoy as we take a tour on some of the neatest gardens in the area with the help of the people that know them the best.
Taos is a small mountain community. It's located in high desert, so it's a challenge to garden here. But it's filled with people who are passionate about gardening and who are passionate about their community and want to give back. Hi, I'm Susan Raymond. I'm a landscape architect registered in New Mexico and Arizona. I love Taos. It's a beautiful place. I'm also president of the Los Jardineros Garden Club of Taos. We're a nonprofit organization devoted to environmental and horticultural education and beautification of public landscapes in the community. Each year we have a home and garden tour, and with the funds that we make from the garden and home tour, we provide grant money to projects in the community for beautification and education. On this tour today, you'll see a variety of homes. You'll see a home on the mesa that's an earthship, that's a sustaining home that uses solar energy. You'll also see a retirement community with some very passionate women. You'll also see a smaller in-town garden with a walled courtyard. So I hope you enjoy the tour today, and I hope at some point you make it to Taos to see our beautiful place.
Today we visit a small space garden, and the theme of this garden, as the owner puts it, is to have fun, make it look good, but don't work too hard. Let's go meet the gardener. Hey Doug.
Hi, Joe.
How are you?
Very well, thanks.
I understand you're the gardener on property, right?
Yes, I am.
And this is your house. This is going to be great because I don't have an opportunity to talk to many male gardeners, so I'm really interested to hear your story. So tell me how you got started in it.
Well, I got started in the Texas Panhandle, grew up about 3 houses from my grandmother. And she would invite me down, as grandmoms would do, and get all the work she could get out of me. But she'd make me feel so good while she was doing that, I think that's why I started loving gardening so much.
Okay, so you're retired now?
Retired, and wanted to spend time doing this again, picking it back up and kind of start all over.
Well, peeking around the corner, it looks like you've done a great job, so I'm anxious to see it. Why don't we get started?
Okay.
Well, Doug, this looks great back here. Now, I understand you had an opportunity to buy this property when the house was under construction, so that allowed you to focus on the outside and the inside at the same time, right?
Yes, it did.
Well, talk to me about how you laid this part out.
The hardscape was the first thing I concentrated on. The reason for that is the water was running to the house on 3 different sides, and I had to get the water away from the house. So this design on the hardscape helps to alleviate the water and funnel it in a direction that I'm able to utilize the water into some other plants.
Hey, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, I see a lot of hardscape here. Did they have something to do with the maintenance issues?
It sure did. The more hardscape you have, the less maintenance you have.
Well, that makes sense. And speaking of less maintenance, what type of plant material would you be using here? Like perennials, I would assume.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's take a look at some of those. And while we're at it, I'd love to hear about some of those low maintenance ideas you have.
About the best tip I can give is the weed cloth I put down before I did any of the plantings. Put weed cloth down solid, cut holes in the weed cloth and dug my holes out and planted the plants. And it has kept them very confined to themselves. They don't get overgrown, and of course it controls the weeds, and that is a big help.
As I'd say.
Yeah.
What about some of those perennials? One of the ones that stood out right away was this one that had that nice fern-like foliage back there. Tell me about that one.
Everybody comments on that. That's a tantacetum, kind of fern-like. It's very soft for this country. It grows in the sun and the shade both. It gets a lot of good comments. It's a good.
Well,
thing.
and it adds a lot of nice texture to the garden.
Yes, it does.
And I noticed this primrose down below me. Tell me about that.
Well, Missouri primrose, the blooms on it last about a day and a half.
Oh, no.
And so there's a lot of deadheading on it, but it's worth it. It'll bloom like that all the way through fall.
Well, and it has a nice soft texture to it.
Yes, it does.
And that yellow really looks nice against the walkway. And speaking of the walkway, you have a lot of thyme all incorporated through here.
5 varieties of thyme.
And you have some that are blooming. And as I look at this thyme, it's blooming right next to this purple scabiosa. And if you look at these two together, that's a great combination.
Yes.
Then we look over here. What is going on here? This whole area is filled with roses.
Well, those roses have been here probably about 150 years. This is an old drainage ditch that came out of the Taos Plaza. And somebody planted these roses here about 150 years ago, and they're just doing great. I chopped them down the first year we were here and just let them go. So it's no maintenance and beautiful fall colors and beautiful blooming colors in the spring.
Well, you have a great looking low maintenance garden, Doug, and I really wanted to thank you for taking the time to show it to us.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next visit is to an earthship. It might not be what you think, but you will be pleasantly surprised. The stop at this garden is behind this home. It's referred to as an earthship. Now, it's fully self-sustainable. That means that it's very efficient. They generate their own electricity, collect their own water, and they have a great-looking garden. Tony is a retired New York City detective. Janelle is an actress. They moved from the east to the west because they love the snow and they love to ski. They just don't like the mess of it all. Here, they're far enough away, but they get the benefits of everything. Now, behind these walls are some really spectacular gardens. So let's go take a look. Hi, Janelle.
Hi, Joe.
How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you.
So nice to have you here.
Well, it is nice to be here. This is spectacular.
Thank you.
Now, is all this your handiwork, or was it like it when you got here?
It was not like this. It was just a house on 10 acres and dirt all around the house.
No kidding. Now, was there a grand plan, or did you put it together piece by piece?
No, you know, we were attracted to this area because our real true landscape was the sky. So I always say I get to live in the sky. And so it just began with that, knowing that we wanted to see the sky. We didn't want to cover up the sky, but we wanted that green fix. Because in the summer, with the sage, it's very muted. I just needed to feel this, like, you know, landscape around me. And that's kind of how it all began. We had to do a wall in order for the plants to be able to survive, because we get wind from the west off the gorge. So.
Well, how did you lay out the garden? You have some areas for entertainment and so forth. So talk about that.
Well, the entertainment areas happen simply because our house is a solar home. It faces south, and we can't cover up the windows. That's our heat source. So we needed to have areas of outdoor living, a kitchen area with an overhang, and we created 2 decks at either end that would create symmetry.
All right.
And then from there, we just, I always said I wanted to have a fire pit area. I wanted to have a perennial garden. I wanted to have some grass. I wanted to have a raised seed bed. I wanted to have an orchard and a vegetable garden. And that's just sort of the general picture of it all.
Well, then how did you know what plants to put here? You're coming from the east to the west. How did you know?
Well, that, funnily enough, just happened because I visited other people's gardens here, and I said, oh, a delphinium grows here. That's what grew back east. So I knew that the things that I was in a similar zone, and that the things that grew there, I could grow here. So that made me feel comfortable.
Okay, well let's take a tour because I want to see all of these beautiful rooms that you have in your garden. Wow, Janelle, you come around the corner of this butterfly bush right into what I would call a secret room.
It is. It's a secret room, and I don't know if you ever read The Secret Garden, but that was sort of my sense that I was going to come into this place that you didn't expect when you entered the gates.
Right.
And I wanted a place where we could sit and enjoy the night sky of Taos, which is unbelievable. You see galaxies galore. And we wanted to see Taos Mountain. So it just came out that the wall curved. We created a banco, and then we created the fire pit and the patio. Joe, this is my seed garden. I love to plant things from seed because one, it saves me money, and two, it's just exciting. It's like I look at the little seedlings coming up and I get thrilled, and then I'm able to take those and move them around my large garden. I wanted perennials and annuals, and the way this seed bed took shape was that I would sit inside the house, and because our house is solar and glass facing to the south, we're 2 feet below ground level. I'd sit in there and I would look out, and this became my theater. So the foreground was all the color. And then we'd move to the wall, and the wall would cut off the sage, and you would just see the Sangre de Cristo mountain range and the sky. And Tony would say, well, how high do you want the wall? And I would go and sit inside and say, put up another block. And that's how we came to the height that we got.
Well, how did you come to the plants that you put in here?
Well, because of the East, my association with the East, the same growing season, the same zone, I knew that these things would work. I also tried to find plants that were more drought resistant. And then friends would give me plants. The irises have all come from friends. They've multiplied. I've divided them, given them away, as well as other plants. And so that connects me to my friends when I'm tending these beautiful creatures. That's how it developed.
And that's what it's all about. Well, Janelle, I can clearly see that we're in the edibles section, but one of the other things I noticed right off the bat are these cages. So tell me about what's going on here.
Well, we have critters in this garden. We have rabbits and rock squirrels. And the rabbits are okay, but the squirrels will eat all of my vegetables. So I had Tony create these cages, and they work perfectly to handle that problem.
So you just lift them off and harvest and tend to your vegetables, and you're good.
Exactly.
Now, how do the vegetables do here?
They do very well, except tomatoes especially usually do not ripen to the red stage because we live at altitude 7,400 feet and the nights are very cool. But I don't have a problem with that because I'll pick all of them all summer, in September particularly, and I'll put them in a brown bag, take them into my solar home, and before I know it, I look in the bag, voila, and I have ruby red flesh, and it's just great.
That's nice. So September, right?
Yes.
I'll see you then. One other question now. Vegetables and some of your perennials, a lot of your plants here need plenty of irrigation, and here we are in the middle of the desert. So how do you take care of the watering problem?
Well, we have a huge roof, and we collect water off the roof. Usually the summer have the monsoons, and we have underground cisterns. And then Tony has created drip to everything that you see in the garden, and it works very well.
Drip irrigation, a smart way to water. Well, Janelle, this has been a fantastic tour. Not long enough. We have a couple other gardens we need to see, so I have to say goodbye, but hopefully you'll have us back real soon.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Thank you.
Well, up next, we have a couple smaller gardens that we need to go take a look at, so let's go visit those now. Gardens in small spaces don't have to be any less interesting or colorful. You're about to see two gardens that make the most of some pretty small spaces. The gardeners, Karin and Pat, are residents in this retirement community, and they're clearly putting plenty of work into their own gardens. Let's go take a look. Hi, Karin.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. You have a beautiful garden right here.
Thank you. It's our entrance.
And I see that. Now, you've had gardens and been a gardener all your life.
Yes, indeed.
But you didn't have a garden here initially, right?
No.
Talk about that.
I chose this location because it afforded me a 50-foot by 20-foot garden space and a carport. And the carport I chose to close off and brick it and make an extension of the apartment.
So gardening is important to you, and you're very resourceful with what you have to work with, including the traffic noise. You've had some challenges there that you've been dealing with. You have drainage issues that come off the parking lot.
That's right.
So let's go take a look and see how you've dealt with that and what you've done with your garden.
I'd love to show it to you.
Let's
Come
go
in.
see. Well, Karin, now we're inside your beautiful garden. Why don't you talk about how you laid this out and dealt with some of the challenges?
Well, the first thing I did was to pick up pencil and paper and do a scale drawing of measuring the area, of course. And I had to address a terrible problem of all the water that flows down from this large parking lot. So I laid down a garden hose, drew it in, edged it with rock that I'd been bringing in many trips within 20 miles or so. And I'd gathered these rocks before I moved in. And then I needed to get to the higher area, so a path on this end and a path down below.
So now you have your bones in place.
That's right.
You've dealt with the major challenge. It's time to add the plants.
Well, they were drawn in with the pen and pencil stage, and I wanted a balance of color and sculptural form.
Well, Karin, now we're up on the back garden path, looking down from an entirely new perspective. Talk about some of the plants that you selected here, as well as the garden art, specifically as it pertains to form.
Well, the form was very important for me, both in terms of the sculptures from my own collection, which have been employed, but also in selection of the bushes, the shrubs, and the trees. And as you can see, the light blue of this globe spruce, which will become 4.5 feet round, and then the juniper, a favorite of mine, topiary, so that it won't become any wider, but it'll get taller. If I should fall, not be able to take care of all this, each of these shrubs were selected so that they would fill the area without the perennials. All right?
All right.
They're favorites. You know, the birds are very important, and I feed the birds, and they love to bathe here, and they love to roost in this locust tree.
Right.
It's called a lace lady, and it's curvilinear, as you can see, and the leaves, the little leaflets fall, making great mulch, and then the ribs, which are contorted, are covered with snow in the winter. It's beautiful. So there's that, and then the weeping cherry, the red of the dark of the Canadian red choke cherry, and the 9 bark, and I'm trying to fill in along the fence with thicker things, euonymus and the junipers, so that it will diminish the noise of the street.
I see.
And because this is my sanctuary, it's my garden, it's my special place. There's lower things along the edge of the carport, and I like it. I love it.
Well, you know what? I love it too, and this is a very special place. Unfortunately, we have to leave it, but if you'll have us back, I promise we'll come.
I hope you will.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Hi, Pat.
Oh, hello, Joe.
Another beautiful garden in Taos.
Well, thank you.
But you've had the opportunity to live and garden in countries all around the world. How does this area compare?
Well, this is kind of special because although we're in the middle of the town, being able to create a fairly lush environment, which is special living in the high desert.
Well, you have created a lush environment. Tell me about some of the thought process that went into laying out this area, because this is the front of your garden. The front door is right to my left.
That's correct. Well, I thought it was important in a house to have a lot of solar gain so that we're not using so much power to warm it in the winter. And then in the garden, I wanted to have create an environment that had a variety of color, a variety of shaped leaves, and something blooming all the time, if possible.
It looks like you've done a great job there, and it also looks like you've taken advantage of a lot of evergreen.
That's true, and I also try to make it as low maintenance as possible because I don't want to spend a lot of time working.
Well, I think that's probably a unanimous comment. What about the space that you've taken advantage of against your wall in your house?
Yes, well, I've tried to soften the adobe, which is soft actually already, but by putting things on edges, it makes it nicer to look at, and we can also grow fruit like grapes around the door.
What about the some of the specifics? Like, I love this tree. This white or silver foliage against that blue sky is spectacular. Talk about that.
Yes, that's a Russian olive, which native plant people are not too happy to see around because it's not a native and it does take water, but it is an exquisitely beautiful tree with wonderful blossoms in the spring with a nice scent and very pretty foliage all the time.
Does it create berries or anything for the
yes,
wildlife?
Berries for the birds in the winter.
That's a great addition. Now you have some other parts of your garden in the back that may be a little more maintenance, but different though?
That's correct.
Can we take a look at that?
Sure, let's go.
Well, Pat, when you designed and built the house, you also took into consideration your garden with an eye towards the future. Talk about this raised bed.
Yes, well, I made it about 3 feet high so that one didn't have to lean over very far to attend to it. And it's looking a little bit sparse at the moment because I was away at the planting season, but there are some Japanese squash in here and I hope they're going to be really great very soon.
Pat, I look around your garden and I see that you have a lot of fruit trees growing against the fence, and the term is called espalier. It's training against a flat space.
Yes, that's correct. And it's probably from my childhood in England and in Europe in general, we need to make use of the space because it's much smaller than you have here. And so we put the trees and they need a lot of pruning to keep them up against the fence. And they produce quite a lot of fruit. I have nectarines and apples at the moment, and there are cherries and green gages and damsons, many different kinds of, 16 kinds of fruits.
That's a lot going on in the small space. And something else I wanted to ask you, because in a lot of small space gardens, you don't see turf used very much. You know, that's kind of been eliminated from the garden, but in your case, you have a nice area of lawn. Talk about that.
Well, as it happens in this retirement community, they will cut the grass, which is a very nice feature. And I also like to play croquet, so that makes it, and it sets off the other plantings in the garden too.
Well, that's a good point, because it's nice to have that flat green space, and in your case, I love how suddenly you have this elevation change right up to this pond. You have so much going on here. Tell me about your plantings here and what you were thinking about when you put this here.
Well, this is actually a rockery, as we would term it. So you have plants that don't need a lot of water, and they grow in amongst the rocks. Again, as much color as possible over a long period of time. And then we have lilies blooming in the water, and a sort of a crazy bonsai apricot here. But, you know, you have to have a bit of fun.
You are having a lot of fun here because you have a lot of different varieties of plants, textures, colors, and then the flowers, these really bold, bright colors. And I know the birds probably love that water.
Yes, they come and drink and bathe in the water here on the fountain pot.
Well, Pat, now we're just outside the fence of your backyard garden in a completely different garden that came about through, what, a community effort that was spearheaded by you, I think.
Well, as it happened, a few of us were standing here and happened to notice there was a beautiful view of the mountain. But the near view, as it was a parking lot, was not very pleasant. So a group of us got together, and I get pointed to make a garden. And I thought, well, butterfly garden, that's just pretty flowers, and that's quite easy. But it turned out to be a bit more complicated because butterfly need more than just flowers for nectar, but they need plants for the caterpillars and the chrysalis. So you have, for the monarch butterfly, we have milkweed, and we have alfalfa and parsley, which are plants not usually in a normal garden. And so in time, with contributions by people either in the form of planting things or giving money or bringing some plants, as a community we built this together. And it was especially fun to have the people in wheelchairs and things to come to a party where we had some butterflies which we had grown from caterpillars and chrysalis to share, to sort of begin the inauguration of the garden.
Well, we have enjoyed our time in this garden as well as all of our garden visits in Taos today, and I want to thank you ladies for the chance to visit your gardens, and I also want to say that all the gardens that we've seen in Taos have been incredible. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Another show, another amazing garden. We hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we've enjoyed producing it. If you watch the show, you know we travel the country visiting beautiful gardens. Well, we have a surprise in store for several in the audience. To learn more about the surprise, visit our website at GardenSMART.com.
Rainbird has a deep-rooted understanding of the role water plays in our lives. Rainbird takes the challenges very seriously of using water effectively, efficiently, and responsibly. The intelligent use of water guides everything we do.
Proven Winners presents Invincible Spirit, a hydrangea bred to bloom pink every year. Pink symbolizes the fight against breast cancer, and Proven Winners through Invincible Spirit is proud to help in this cause. More information available online.
Garden Socks utilizes your own growing media, mix, or compost. They're designed to allow you to garden anywhere and clean and direct stormwater runoff. Garden Socks, a container for your plants.
Hey there, little red riding hood. You sure are looking good.
Having a chance to see a new garden is always exciting. It's even better when you get to visit several at a time like we did. But if you have any questions about what you saw today, look us up on the web at GardenSMART.tv. Even if you're a master gardener, there's always more to know. So join us next time for more ideas and information as we Garden Smart. So stay with us as we take you on a tour of some of the neatest places in the area, especially the gardens. And I'm going to do it again. And it's even better when you get to meet the people that take care of them, as you'll see today. And it's even better when you get to meet the people that take care of them. Today you will take